where everything is. And 12 years of the hospital's data in the form of HIMSS data, pharmaceutical row, a human resources row with every employee that had ever worked there in their entire work history and salary history. The pharmaceutical row, by the way, had all the prescription information and some blank ones, so you could fill your own out. Then in the back was a whole beautiful row of credit card data. And just in a quick count, I started doing some calculations, and there was probably about 40 or 50,000 credit card swipe numbers and names and ECCs and everything in there. So you can do the math at $100 a piece on the black market. There's a little incentive to come and steal this stuff. And to make it a little easier, there's a loading dock door right there. And once you get through the really hard lock on this door, there's no lock on that door. So you can just open it up, back your truck in, take off. So that was a little bit of a concern. And then in addition to that concern, I started talking the next day when I was doing the post-assessment with their staff. I started talking to the gentleman that kind of manages it, and I said, beyond the security concern here, do you ever worry about fire? And he's like, well, yeah, a little bit. He goes, there was a giant wildfire in that field, came sweeping across here about 4 years ago, and it got to about 200 yards of this thing. We were a little concerned it was going to burn it up. And I'm like, do you have backups of any of this stuff? No, we bought this big nice scanner, but we haven't used it yet. Okay, thanks. Another situation, a different hospital. I was walking around getting all credentials. I like to go at night, and you'd think at night the guards would really stop you, but they don't. Walked up to the second floor, didn't even do any pre-intel on this red team, just walked in just to see what I could get to. Found a closet, door was open, and these Rubbermaid tubs contained server hard drives and unencrypted tapes for about 8 years of data. So I was able to take those with me and go harvest some interesting information off of them that included gigabytes and gigabytes of PHI and probably even more importantly, all the financials for that hospital for years. At another, this was actually at another kiosk type machine in an ED. It wasn't a wow cart, but it was a machine that was kind of sitting there for some of the staff to use. And it was auto logged in on a generic account. We were talking about the nurse one kind of accounts and things like that. This is another reason not to do that. I walked up to it, and right away I was able to get to this directory. If you're familiar with the way Microsoft Windows works, this is the repair directory, and that little area right over there that's called the SAM file contains all the hashes that have ever been logged in on that machine locally. And remember I was talking to you earlier about the website where you could take those hashes and drop them in and then you get the password? The interesting thing about that is almost every healthcare I've ever walked into, if you get the password for a local administrative account on a single machine, it's the same on every single machine in that organization. Why is that important? Well, if I steal it from here and I leave, I walk up to any other machine and now I'm a local administrator on that machine, and I can log in and install two things, my keylogger and my rootkit. And what that does is every keystroke that ever happens on that machine now, so when people log into Centricity, to Epic, to Meditech, to McKesson, to PDM, PulseCheck, anything, I have their credentials. And I have a rootkit, which means it's talking out 443 through your WebSense, Blue Coat devices, anything you have on the perimeter to filter that to my web server and telling me, hey, there's a machine I can take remote control of anytime I want to and they won't know it. And I can jump on that machine and retrieve my key logs and watch everything you're doing and nobody knows it. So once I have local administrator password, I have it for most of the time for everybody in the organization. I have every set of credentials for every application you've ever run. And also, by the way, if you don't care about your healthcare stuff, your banking passwords that you do when you're at work. And now my very favorite, which almost surpasses the shed. At yet another healthcare, I was walking around the hospital, and I saw a wireless access point, a very big antenna for one, outside the hospital. And it was a directional one, and it was pointing down the street, kind of away from the hospital. That's very strange. You don't see that very often. So I followed the vector, the line of sight, and it was this beautiful, beautiful old house, like an 1880s, 1890s house across the street and down the way. And it was at night, and it had the same kind of antenna on it, went back to the hospital. Score. Is that? That's the foundation for the hospital. Huh. Walk over there, take my flashlight, look around in the glass windows and stuff. Oh, they got a burglar alarm system. Well, that's good. And walk around the back alley, and I find that window down at the ground level. And I shine my flashlight in, and I don't see any sensors for the burglar alarm system. And there's no sensors on the window. And it's an 1870s window, so it's not even hinged. It's held in with a couple of rusty nails. That's interesting. Kind of push on it, it drops out, and it's going to go and catch it, set it down on the floor, drop into the basement, look around again, flashlight, no alarm system, nobody's there. Turn on the light, because that's the only window. The only people are going to see it is out the back alley. And I find that machine and that switch next to it. That's a production switch on their production network, and that machine is a domain controller global catalog on their Active Directory. And those of you who know what that is, that means that I just got enterprise admins for their entire forest. That means I own Active Directory, LDAP, that controls access to most of their applications. And any of their applications I don't own access to, I have enterprise admins in Active Directory, which means I drop group policy objects on every machine that logs in and drop my keyloggers in my rootkit. And that means when you log in, and you log in, and you log in, and you log in, I'm keylogging all your machines, and once again, I have access to all your applications, and I have it from a remote site in my hotel or anywhere I want to be, and I own your entire network. Remember that $1.3 billion lawsuit? So the other thing that you guys have probably heard some of this before, because this isn't true just for healthcare, it's true for everybody. Most network breaches do not happen anymore from the outside. A few do, but we're getting smarter. We secure the perimeter. We're Fort Knox on the outside, and we're the Ritz-Carlton on the inside. We're very welcoming. And what that means is we build this giant wall around our networks on the outside, and we protect them from the Indonesian hackers and the South American hackers and the Russian hackers and the LulzSec American hackers and everyone else. But on the inside, we have disgruntled employees that, oh yeah, they're hackers too. And they can steal almost anything because those security controls usually don't exist, or they're very weak on the inside. So it's a soft center situation. So we got to rethink how we think about this kind of stuff. And the Pen Test Red Team helped us do that, because that's where I go break into stuff. And when I come and show you what I did, and we do the post-assessment remediation talks, you get to find out where you were soft. And that's from the good guys, not the bad guys that just cost you $1.3 billion in a breach. Also, people, we kind of joke that you can patch servers, you can patch network gear, but you can't patch human beings. People are very welcoming, they're very friendly, they're very nice. They should be in healthcare. But they also have to be educated to be very smart. They have to be willing to ask questions. They have to say, hey, are you looking for someone? Can I help you? You can be nice about it. Can I get you some coffee, and I'll take you to who you need to see, and I'll help you get there. But I'll stay with you. I'm not just going to say, oh, he's down the hall over there, go right ahead. Or here, have access to my machine. By way of another anecdotal tale, walked into another healthcare late at night, had an EMC shirt on that I got from the thrift store for $2. Anytime I see a vendor shirt at the thrift store, I buy it because they're great for Red Team Pen Test. And by the way, the thieves do the same thing. Had my fake EMC badge that matched it. And I walked up to an ED, and there was several people working on some machines, and I knew this particular ED had GE centricity. You could see it up on a couple of machines back there. And I walked up and I say, are you guys having the slow printing problem? And they're like, which problem? I go, is it printing slow from centricity? And he goes, well, yeah, it's pretty slow. And I go, I'll fix it. He buzzes me in. I walk over there. He watches me, so he logs in and he kind of steps back. He's watching what I'm doing for a minute, so I go into centricity, and I didn't know his interface, but I just poke around for a while like I know what I'm doing. And pretty soon he's bored. Okay, he knows what he's doing. And he has coffee, and he's talking with his friends. While he's doing that, I jump into his network shares, steal all his data, encrypt it, send it out to my private email server, pull his centricity back up, shut it down, reboot the machine, It comes back up. I go, try it now. He logs back into Centricity. He prints something and he goes, yeah, that's faster. Thanks. I really go, oh, no problem, man. Thanks. Out the door. Happens all the time. And my favorite one was along those lines. Went up to a Cisco IP phone on a red team and walked up there with a wireless access point that didn't look like a wireless access point, of course, and walked up with a Cisco shirt that I got from a thrift store for $2. It's a recurring theme. And the lady's like, oh, you're here to fix the phones? And I go, yeah, are you having problems? And she goes, oh, let me tell you. She starts enumerating the problems they're having with these phones. When somebody's talking on the phone and someone else calls in, it does this and all this, and I go, oh, we see this everywhere. She's like, can you fix it? Yes, ma'am. We'll walk right around there, unplug her phone, plug in my wireless access point that doesn't look like a wireless access point, set it on the table, and say, we're going to run some tests, we'll be right back. Walk over to the cafeteria of the hospital, jump on my machine, jump on my private wireless access point, I'm on the production network now, steal all their credentials, get into their EMR, own all their systems, walk back over to her, and I say, oh, I think you'll find it's fixed now, and I unplug my wireless access point, I plug her phone back in, and I'm going to leave. But the phone, as it's coming up, I want to make sure it comes up, because if it doesn't come up properly, she's going to call somebody and say, who are these guys? So it comes up, but as soon as it does, it says, applying update 1. Oh, crap, I got to hang around a while. So I'm standing there, okay, and it goes through its little process, and it reboots. And I go, oh, good, here we go. It comes up, applying update 2. It's like that Office Space show where he's waiting for the little bar to go. Come on. Reboots itself. Applying update 3. This goes on 3 full updates, 3 reboots, and it comes back up, and she goes, let me test it. I'm like, oh boy. So she does some tests that it didn't work before, works fine. She's thrilled. She gives me a big hug. I say thanks and leave. So what it was is she had like a year's worth of updates that had been waiting on this phone. She never rebooted it. We rebooted it for her because we unplugged it, and when we did, it fixed her phone. I'm a really good Cisco repairman. I don't want to brag. What can we do about this stuff? Well, continue with compliance audits, findings, remediation. I'm not advocating that there's anything wrong with compliance. Compliance is necessary. It's necessary because your auditors will burn you in audit committee, but it's also necessary because it's a building block to security. It's just not the end, okay? The other thing you can do is conduct actual periodic real world, like we're talking about, red team pen test assessments and post-remediation assessments, meaning we brief the staff, we help them with ideas about how to fix this, how to remediate these items, and then we come back in a month or 2 months or 3 months or whatever it makes sense, and we do it again on the same stuff. Did it get fixed? Are those attack vectors closed now? Have we fixed the problem? And probably the most important and least expensive thing that you can do is IT and user education regarding real world security. It doesn't cost much. There's lots of ways to do it. You guys have portals? You put it on the front portal page where security reminders, right? Click a link here. Some interesting stuff. Go find out how to fix it. You can do mass emailing. You got e-learning. Everybody's got e-learning, right? Required e-learning modules that you do periodically. Put an e-learning module in. Teach people. Educate them. Make them aware. Tell them you can still have a welcoming spirit, but be smart about it. Okay? You can also develop comprehensive IT security strategy plans. This is where you lay out all these things that we're talking about and all of your vulnerabilities and all the things that you want to protect, and then you apply tools and solutions to them, and you look at the ones that you can afford now and the ones that need to be put off for budgetary reasons and the ones that don't cost you hardly anything, like the user education, and you set up a roadmap with Gantt charts and milestones to apply that and fix these issues long term, okay, as opposed to just being reactive and willy-nilly with everything. You can also encrypt all of your sensitive data, especially on your endpoints. What's the big vulnerability everybody's hearing about now? Right? Let's see, one of those breaches I think came from one of the hospital's CEO's administrative assistant, had all of his email on her iPhone, and it walked away. I bet somebody in this room has the same situation. Encrypted, all of it. Laptops, iPads, iPhone, tablets, Android, everything. I cannot stress that enough. That's me, guys. Thank you.